it's definitely something that for years has been very obvious in the data, and it hasn't been addressed, and the gap has not been yet bridged. So I can't disagree with her, although I don't fully agree with her approach or lack of what that approach is at the moment.
Well, yeah, should there be special programmes for white working class kids? I mean, you do see a lot of special programmes for ethnic minority kids, for girls too.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't about identity politics. This is really about a disadvantaged group of people in our society. If we fail them, we fail everyone else, we fail Britain. I think we can't ignore white working class pupils just because they're white. They're disadvantaged. If they're disadvantaged, like any other disadvantaged group we've looked at, we've raised the bar with any other group. We've made sure that we've invested the right systems and processes in place, and we've seen the impact of that. Just look at London, where I've worked for the last 15 years or so. London has proven a blueprint where we can do this with disadvantaged students. So we need to roll that out to other places in the coastal towns, in the post-industrial towns in the UK.
Now, what did London do differently? Obviously, the London Challenge, there was a heap of money.
Funding, I don't think, is the main problem. If you think about the national funding formula, London turned around itself with the same national funding formula as other parts of the UK. It was the leadership, it was the expectations, the teaching quality that made the difference. And if you are going to put money anywhere, it should really probably go in attracting the best teachers into those places.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Christies Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Christies Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning and welcome to the Camilla Tominey Show this week with me, Andrew Pearce. Now, Parliament is ending recess, but politics never paused, did it? Here's what's coming up on today's programme. The Education Secretary, Bridget Phillipsson, will join me in the studio to discuss school attendance and poor pupil behaviour ahead of the new school year. From the opposition benches, I'm going to speak to the shadow chant of the Duchy of Lancaster, Alex Burghart MP. I'm getting his reaction to the Home Office winning its appeal against the closure of the Bell Hotel in Epping for illegal migrants. Deputy Leader of Reform UK, Richard Tice, is joining me in the studio. He's looking ahead to Reform Party conference in Birmingham, which starts on Friday. And Sir Davey, the Lib Dem leader, snubs his invite to the state banquet for Donald Trump. Could Reform UK leader Nigel Farage take his place? The former Mayor of Middlesbrough, Andy Preston, joins me to discuss just that. And the Tories want to launch an investigation, of course they do, into Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner. She's accused of dodging £40,000 in stamp duty when buying a second home. Broadcaster and journalist Juda Silva will bring us her own take on that. So that's a packed political show to come. Don't think of going anywhere. But before all of that, joining him to review the Sunday front pages and the inside pages, of course, is the broadcaster and journalist Claire Muldoon. Claire, the other day I heard Minister Matthew Pennycook saying Angela Rayner wasn't a story. Well, the story broke last Sunday about her seaside home in Hove, which she bought for £800,000. It's now 8 days later and it's still a front-page story.
It is, and it's truly remarkable, Andrew, that indeed we have got so many column inches onto the Deputy Prime Minister, Angela Rayner, and indeed the Housing Minister. And I think there's a lot of hypocrisy going on within the Labour Party. And Richard Tice, whom you're having on later, summed it up, I think, quite well, because there's a deeper story here. He thinks that she's performing some form of a plot for a chicken run. Now, let's just be honest, that is moving from quite a safe seat, that was a safe seat for her up north, now down to Brighton and Hove, which is a very strong Labour stronghold, which the Labour guy who is in at the moment defeated the Greens quite successfully, and now Angela Rayner might think, oh, that might be a bit of a safe seat for me because of the threat of reform.
Yeah, now I looked. She's in Ashton-under-Lyne,
Yeah.
and of course we're going to talk quite a lot about her home, which she declares is her principal residence in Hove. That's 260 miles away from her constituency, Ashton-under-Lyne. Her majority fell to 6,500 last time. Reform were in a close second place.
Yeah.
Reform, according to some polls today, have a lead anywhere between 8 and 15 points over the Labour Party. So they're a major threat to her. Reform are a particular threat to Labour in white, what I would call traditional white working class constituencies.
Which is normally the Labour voter.
Yeah.
OK, they're supposed to be the party for the working people. How many times did Starmer extrapolate on that line? We're the party for the working person. We are not going to damage the working person, the working people. That is our plan for Britain. This is the plan. He hasn't delivered any of it, Andrew. And people are getting really, really angry. And they're starting now, front pages, the Sunday Express, we will not fight for this country. Angela Rayner, a few weeks ago, even said there's an issue with pride in this country. There is none, right? Which seems a bit, disparate and very, very broken. And I think that's indeed what this country is. But the column inches that she's getting is based on hypocrisy, because you would not expect, the Labour Party to come in. They had 14 years in opposition, Andrew. They're 14 years in opposition to get their manifesto straight. They knew what the money was. They knew what the budget that they would all get in. Rachel Reeves has damaged beyond repair, in my view. Starmer is not a leader, in my view. And Angela Rayner now, it is, I've said this before, it's a complete omnishambles, but doesn't it just show you the cesspit of politics in this country?
Interesting too, on the front of the Mail on Sunday, they point out that when she bought this property in Hove, she consulted a company which is all about wealth management and protecting wealth.
Shoesmiths, wasn't it?
Shoesmiths.
Yeah.
Now, I was thinking about this. The first property I ever bought was as a 22-year-old boy, really. £19,000, terrace house in Worcester 40-odd years ago.
Yeah.
I moved up the property ladder over this. I've never, ever hired a company involved in managing wealth to advise me on a property purchase. That suggests, doesn't it, that she's looking at inheritance tax, tax avoidance, which is a strange thing for the housing sector to be doing.
Well, it's strange, and it might be bordering hypocritical, as I was saying. But she was, in one of these moves, it is reported that she wanted to put her 3 children onto the deeds of one of the properties in terms of an inheritance for them. But also, don't forget, David Cameron had the Panama Papers. So we've had people from very, 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 elaborate schemes advising ministers at very high level. So this is not news in that respect. But do we expect someone with a fervour for Labour policies to do this?
Yeah, and it's going to be a big story. Parliament returning tomorrow. It's a big issue. Officials are saying she's done nothing wrong, but it's about perception.
Well, it's the optic, isn't it? It's the optic from the view of, is what she has done legal? I'm sure it is, OK? I'm sure it is really legal. But the optic of her being the housing minister, of lack of building of housing in this country, lack of affordable housing in this country, lack of people being able to get on the property ladder in this country, and she's managing, through advice, to mitigate tax and inheritance, it would seem.
All of this we can put to the Secretary of State for Education. Now, a really interesting poll on the front of the Sunday Times today, Claire. Keir Starmer, in my view, always thought by giving votes to 16-year-olds, remember, you have to get approval for parents to get married at 16, that this would be a vote winner for the Labour Party from grateful 16 and 17-year-olds. But this poll from More in Common today shows that actually most of those votes, if indeed they do get out of bed to vote, as 16-year-olds and 17-year-olds, will go to Jeremy Corbyn's new party, because he's an anti-establishment figure, and the other party that will benefit is Nigel Farage's Reform.
Absolutely. And I have got an issue with this bill. I know it was in their manifesto. I really do not think that 16-year-olds ought to have the vote. I think it's fine at 18. It's a gateway. And I think the way that a lot of them are thinking now in terms of communication within each other, the 15 to 16-year-old bracket. It's all via phones, it's all via apps. So I wouldn't be surprised either then if they were to not be able to get to the polling station and actually vote from home in their bed with an app. And I think that's really, really wrong. And I don't think they're having the conversations in homes either, Andrew, to form a political view, to give political astuteness to the child. They are children at 16, my goodness me. They cannot attend a tertiary educational facility at 16. It's just too much for them.
They're not allowed, they're not considered mature enough to drive a car.
Nope.
They can't go and fight for king and country at 16. They can't work full-time, so they've got to stay on it full-time. So why are they ready for the vote? And we know in Scotland, where they've brought in the vote for 16-year-olds, not many of them bothered.
No, they didn't. They didn't. And often, you know, if you see something that's happened disastrously or something that just hasn't happened at all in the case of Scotland, then surely they should be able to say, put their big boy pants on and say, it hasn't worked, let's stop it. No. Let's really stop it. They're not mature enough.
Now, you alluded to this already. It's front page of the Sunday Express.
Yeah.
Majority of young people say they wouldn't fight the United Kingdom. Isn't that a terrible indictment?
It's such a sad, sad indictment. It really, truly is.
Where's patriotism gone?
Well, that's it. But where is the meaning in life gone, you know, to fight for God and country, to fight for king and country, to fight for... I mean, I think there's such apathy in Great Britain at the moment, and there's such division, and we can see that in the polls. And I don't really like to think of polls as being a great temperature gauge of society, but indeed they are coming up again and again and again. Very anti-established, very, very much the temperature is such that people are so angry, they're so disenfranchised, Andrew. They just are, they're striving to survive. And why? Why then would they give up their families, their life, and go and fight for this country that, on the face of it, doesn't really give them anything? And indeed, the High Court ruling from Epping on Friday would suggest that this government are putting the needs of asylum seekers above the needs and wants and love of the country.
There's no other way you can analyse that. The Home Office made it absolutely clear the rights of the asylum seekers have to come first.
Exactly.
And the appeal court accepted that if the migrants were kicked out of their hotel, that could lead to putting them in conflict and could lead to unrest. I think they could look at it the other way. By overturning the injunction and allowing them to stay there can provoke even more unrest.
Well, you know, you could say that, but I think Lord Justice Bean, in his summation, I just think he's got it wrong, and I feel for Eyre as well, who gave the original judgment, because that was a technicality. The hotel was not set up, the Bell Inn was not set up with the proper credentials in terms of licensing to be a hotel for migrants in this country.
Well, it's going to be an extraordinary return to start. And, of course, the party conference season starts this week because we've got Nigel Farage's Reform UK's conference begins on Friday. Clem Muldoon, thank you very much for coming in.
I think Black Rod will need more than his rod to open the door.
I think you will. Now, coming up, we're going to be talking, of course, don't miss it, the Secretary of State for Education, Bridget Phillipsson, is coming in. We're going to be talking to her about the lack of discipline in the classroom, why white working class kids are still failing consistently, also putting to us some of the big stories about Rayner. But first, the former Mayor of Middlesbrough, Andy Preston, joins me to discuss, frankly, what I think is a juvenile gesture by Lib Dem leader Fred Davey, who has decided he will not be going to the state banquet after all in honour of President Trump. This is the Camilla Tominey Show with me, Andrew Pearce, only on GB News.
I hope we haven't forgotten anything.
Travel insurance, I tick that box.
Yeah, but remember what you forgot last year.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello. There's still the risk of heavy rain and thunderstorms across central western parts of the Mediterranean over the next few days. Elsewhere, it should be largely dry and sunny. Largely dry across Madeira, the Canary Islands, but you can see the risk of rain across parts of Spain, Portugal, into France, northern Italy, seeing some heavy downpours and thunderstorms. A few showers possible towards Greece as well, but Turkey largely dry with plenty of sunny spells. Temperatures still in the 30s here, and it remains similar over the next few days.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akua, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Well, significant story this week in when Ed Davey, the Lib Dem leader, he announced after praying to God with his wife, he's a devoted Christian, that he had decided he could not, in all honesty, attend the state banquet next month, in a few weeks' time, in fact, at Windsor Castle for the President of the United States. Well, is that the right move? And could his absence mean an opening for a certain other politician? Let's talk to the former Mayor of Middlesbrough, Andy Preston. Andy, can you tell me, first of all, how did you react when you heard that the Lib Dem leader, Ed Davey, had decided, after all, he would not be attending the state banquet when he's given a couple of interviews in the summer, one to me, where he said he most emphatically would be there if he was invited?
Hi, Andrew. First of all, I thought this was probably disrespectful. I think that when there's a big state occasion, I think it's really important that everybody who should be there is there. I think that it sends a message of cohesiveness, it sends a message that we work together, and it sends the public the right message. However, having thought about it, I think Ed Davey has played a blinder. I think that Donald Trump won't care. I don't think the King will care. It's number 10 that sends the invites, not the King. It's the number 10. It's a political invite, not a royal invite. And I think that what Ed Davey's got to do is raise his profile. I'm not sure he's done a great job so far, you know, as Lib Dem leader, despite the fact they've got more seats. They're not increasing their vote share. So what he's got to do is get people's attention. And by doing this, he's created a controversy, Andrew. You know, I'm talking about it, you're talking about it, Priti Patel has been talking about it. And I think there's a lot of folks on the Lib Dems. We have to remember that Donald Trump isn't a popular figure in the UK, has huge fans, but about 70% of people view him unfavourably. So Ed Davey he's gathering a lot of strength from his own support. He's sending them a strong message that I'm not going to bow to Trump like Keir Starmer has. He's going to send a message to people who don't vote Lib Dem, and he's getting attention for him and his party. So politically, this has actually been a really strong move.
He's not done it because of tariffs, which have a direct impact, Andy, on Britain and on our steel industry and other parts of the economy. He's done it because of what's going on in Gaza. Is that the right issue in which to decide not to go to a state banquet? Because it is Israel which is prosecuting war against Hamas, a vile terrorist organisation which inflicted the worst atrocities on Israeli soil in October 2024 since the Holocaust.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, listen, Andrew, some people do agree with Ed Davey on this and many, many don't. I have to say, call me a cynic, but I personally think that this isn't about Gaza. I think this is a political manoeuvre by him to show existing Lib Dem voters and potential new ones that he will stand up to Trump and he will benefit from this. And as I say, you know, as a second or a third or fourth party in the UK, it's really tough to get media attention. And the controversy this has caused has been great for him, and it's been great for his party, and I think he will benefit from it. So I suspect this was a political piece of manoeuvring rather than a moral gesture. And forgive me if I'm being too cynical about politicians.
You can be cynical on this programme, Andy, because you will get quite a lot of cynicism coming from me too. On the issue of politicians, of course, there is now a vacancy around the top table. It's a fabulous place to go to a state banquet, Windsor Castle, wonderful venue. A certain person called Nigel Farage, his party polled more votes than the Lib Dems at the last general election, 4 million to the Lib Dems 3.75 or 3.8 million. They've got 4 MPs. The Lib Dems have 72. Nigel Farage, as you know, is chums with Donald Trump. Shouldn't he take the place of Ed Davey?
There's a strong argument for that, Andrew. I mean, I think that this situation where he and Reform got far more votes than the Lib Dems, but they don't get the invite, it shows the absurdity of our system. And I do think we need to deal with that. But if we push it to one side and just look at precedents here, I understand that the precedent is that the 3 biggest parties in terms of seats, because we are that kind of democracy, the 3 biggest party in terms of seats, the leaders of each get a vote, get an invite, sorry. If they can't or won't attend, then it can go to somebody else in the party. But that's it. I believe that's the precedent. I understand that in 2019, Jo Swinson, remember Jo? The leader of the Lib Dems back then, she didn't attend at President Trump's last state visit when there was a banquet. And the invite wasn't passed on to anybody else. So I think this is a matter of precedent. But if you're asking me, should Reform have an invite more generally? Yes, I think we should be working on vote share rather than number of seats.
Yeah, and precedents can be broken. And let's be honest, Donald Trump he's not exactly a conventional president of the United States. Don't we want people to be able to raise issues with Donald Trump? Farage, more than anybody, can have a conversation with Donald Trump, and whether it's Gaza's the issue or tariffs on our steel industry, which have the potential to cripple our industry, why not have him there?
Absolutely, and you have to imagine Nigel Farage would do a better job of working really closely with Trump, possibly trying to leverage a friendship and getting good deals. But in truth, that's just not how it's working. So I'm not sure that Farage is ever going to be invited unless we change the way we do things, Andrew, which is to have some form of proportional representation.
Do you think the state visit should have been granted in the first place? Bearing in mind, we're talking about precedents. There is no precedent for a serving president of the United States to be invited twice. He was here under Queen Elizabeth, and when Theresa May was Prime Minister. He's back again. I thought perhaps Starmer, if he was going to give him a visit for a state visit, he might have done it when he'd extracted more from him on tariffs and sanctions, rather than handing it over straight away.
Starmer's won a lot of praise for the way he's handled Trump. In my opinion, it's misplaced praise. I think that Starmer acted like a pussycat, a poodle. I think that he tried to cozy up to him and he gave him everything. And it was almost like this bully was saying, I'm going to take your lunch. And you say, please don't. So he takes half of it. And then you say, oh, thank you for that. We're good friends, aren't we? And I think that Starmer has been bullied. I think the people that have stood up to Trump in a really strong way usually do much better in the medium term. And I think that that's a lesson to Britain, to Europe as a whole and the rest of the world, is that the nicer you are, he may be nice back in the short term, but that's not going to win you any favours. You have to be firm, you have to be tough, and I think Starmer let the UK down.
Can I ask you personally, you're a former mayor of Manchester, you were a Labour sympathiser, you were an independent mayor, you defected to the Tories, I think, was it in March this year?
So I gave the Tories a donation in the spring of this year. My thought there, Andrew, is that, you know, I was a Tony Blair fan, if we go back 15, 20 years. I was a fan of that very much pragmatic approach to wealth, to job creation and to looking after people, finding that right balance. As time has gone on, I think politics, the country and the world has changed. And what we've got now is a changed demographic, a horrifying economic situation where we are running out of money, not enough people are working, earning and paying tax. And I think we're at a crisis. And I think that the only, in my opinion, the only party that is going to deal with that head on and be honest is the Conservatives. So
Have you seen the latest poll? Have you seen the latest poll?
I have.
They're
It's
about
not pretty.
18 points behind Reform.
Yeah, not pretty.
They're sinking without trace, despite your support.
Well, I don't think that I myself on my own can make much difference, but I do believe there's a long way to go, and I think it's all to fight for. And we'll see what happens. Andrew, a lot can happen in politics in a month, never mind 4 years. So we'll see what happens.
All right, that's Andy Preston. Thanks so much, the former Mayor of Manchester. Now, lots more still to come today, but we joined in the studio, you must not miss this, by the Education Secretary, Bridget Phillipsson, who wants to talk about why there is such a problem with discipline in the classroom. And Reform Deputy Leader Richard Tice will be here to look ahead to his party's conference on Friday. This is the Camilla Tominey Show with me, Andrew Pearce, only on GB News.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. Low pressure still dominates the weather at the moment. We had the rain through Saturday, and then today it's a mixture of sunny spells and heavy showers. But it is a bright start this morning. Lots of dry weather around. Those showers quickly get going and then becoming quite widespread as we move through the latter part of the morning into this afternoon, and it will be a blustery day. We'll see winds coming in from the southwest, gusts of 30-35 miles an hour, perhaps locally 40 to 50 around some western coasts and 60 miles an hour for western Scotland. Temperatures around average for the time of year, high teens to low 20s, so in the sunshine not feeling too bad, but given the strength of the wind, the heaviness of the showers pushing through, it will be rather cool at times. Some of the showers could be heavy with some hail and thunder. You can see the bright colours on the map there as we move through the evening time, indicating some hefty downpours, perhaps some longer spells of rain for Northern Ireland into southwest Scotland for the evening time, and those blustery winds driving those showers through quite quickly. Overall, a fairly dry day for Orkney and Shetland with sunny spells. Into the evening time, we see further heavy showers across western parts of the UK as the low pressure slowly edges closer. Some clearer spells developing during the early hours across eastern parts of the Midlands, East Anglia, but generally showers continue through the night for many of us, perhaps some longer spells of rain and also still some rumbles of thunder possible, and the wind staying rather brisk. Temperatures overall will be around 14 or 15 Celsius for many, so not a cold night to come. And then for Monday, low pressure still in charge, a mixture of sunny spells and showers. Some of the showers will be heavy at times. Monday is the first day of meteorological autumn, and everyone will feel that. It'll be rather cool and breezy. Some showers will be heavy with hail and thunder, and temperatures around average, generally around 19 to 21 Celsius as we get into the afternoon. See you soon.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
It's our biggest Great British giveaway to date. You could be driving away with this brand new Benimar Primera motorhome. This 4-berth home from home comes complete with integrated kitchen and bathroom areas and has all of the tech you'd expect from the latest 2025 model. We'll also give you an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to make sure that any adventures you take in your new motorhome are taken in style. For a chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
Dan was one of the victims of the attack, and he was just, within touching distance from the leading suicide bomber. And when that bomb went off, it killed 6 people.
It's still really surreal. It's still a kind of strange thought to realise that I was right in the middle of what happened that day. And even though it's 20 years, it still feels like yesterday.
Yeah.
The pain and the emotional torment that goes with that is just as fresh now as when it just happened.
Mm. And when you think back to that morning, because you've written a book about that day and your experience since, you actually were considering not going into work that day.
Yeah, my whole story of 7/7 is what I kind of term as sliding door moments. There's so many opportunities that were presented to me to do something different, or to stick to my normal routine and not step outside of that. And yeah, there's countless times where if I would have made a different decision, then I wouldn't have been on that train at that time. If I'd have got up on time, if I hadn't missed my stop, there's so many things that I can think back on and think, if only I've done this, if only I've done that. But it serves no purpose now because what's happened has happened.
You were horrendously injured, but people died on that bus that day.
Yeah, I mean, from the area of the train that I was on when the bomb went off, I'm the only one that survived. He killed everybody around me. And that's incredibly tough to live with, to know that you survived something that everybody around you didn't. And I was pretty much laying in and amongst dead bodies and body parts for about an hour and 40 minutes before I was taken out the tunnel.
And what do you remember about the murderer?
I think the most terrifying thing about it is just how calm he was. There was no fear, there was no hesitation, and the most scariest thing of all was he just looked like everybody else.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Morning and welcome back to the Camilla Tominey Show on GB News with me, Andrew Pearce. Lots more still to come. I'm going to hear from the Shadow Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster. It's a posh title, isn't it? Alex Burghart MP on the Epping Hotel verdict. The Deputy Leader of Reform UK, Richard Tice, is also going to be in the studio with me. Reform's annual conference starts this week. And Education Secretary Bridget Phillipsson, we're here to talk about school attendance and why pupil behaviour is such a big problem. And also, why are white working class kids still falling so far behind? There's also a lot to talk about Angela Rayner. Perhaps this come to show, don't think of going anywhere. Now, as Trail, joining me in the studio is the Shadow Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster, Alex Burghart MP. Alex, let's start with the verdict of the appeal court over the Bell Hotel in Epping.
Yep.
Quite clear to me, the Home Office, in fighting that appeal to overturn the injunction, which was effectively going to close down that hotel, which your lot had closed down anyway, that the Home Office was saying the rights of those illegal migrants, because they all crossed the channel illegally, trump those of people who live in Epping.
I think that's entirely right, Andrew, and that's precisely the decision that the Home Secretary has chosen to make. And I think a lot of people are very, very angry about that. This is a government that came in and said that they were going to close down migrant hotels across the country. Instead, use of them is going up. And that's because they've completely dismembered the deterrent programme that we left in place. We left power, we had Rwanda. And without that, the people smugglers and the opportunists see that Britain's a soft touch and people are crossing the channel in absolutely unprecedented numbers.
I don't understand why, when you had that plane ready to go to Rwanda and an unnamed judge from the European Court of Human Rights said it can't go, the British government didn't say, get stuffed, we're putting the plane in the air. France ignores ECHR rulings all the time. Lots of countries do. Not Great Britain. We have to follow.
We're the Brits. We obey rules, right? We like cues. You know, we always try and do the right thing. But as I've always said, if the rules don't make sense, you need to change the rules.
Right.
You know, I'm all in favour of people following the rules. But we've got to have the right rules.
Coruscating leader in The Spectator this week. It's now edited by Michael Gove, who, of course, was a cabinet minister for most of the 14 years of the Tory rule. And he said it's the Tory party's fault on migration because in 2019 it promised to reduce immigration. Instead, legal levels tripled. They did. At one point, legal migration to this country was 1.2 million. That's the population of Birmingham, Shadow Minister.
Yeah, that's why we're in opposition, isn't it?
Yeah, and deservedly so.
No, we understand that that went wrong. We've taken our beating from the electorate, but we also have a new team in charge now. And Kemi and Chris Philp and our colleagues have been absolutely clear that things would be very, very different if we win the next election. And, Chris Philp has published deportation bill, which sets out in far more detail than any other party exactly how we would solve the problem of illegal migration. We've been very clear on the need to drive legal migration right down because it's been too high for too long. You have this crazy state. I think a lot of people don't understand this, Andrew. You have this crazy situation with legal migration, where there are large parts of the year where the government doesn't know how many people are coming into the country. And you then get an update, you get an official update, which tells you whether the figures are right up or right down. Things like that have got to change. We need a modern government with much better information, much stricter rules, and an incredibly hard line on immigration.
It all sounds great, doesn't it? But nobody's listening to you lot.
No,
no one is listening to the Tories because you had 14 years. You didn't close down these migrant hotels. You didn't. They multiplied. Legal migration multiplied. Illegal migration. I was just checking. In 2022, 45,000 crossed the channel. You got a bit better in 2023, 30,000. Now, look, I'm going to talk to the Secretary of State about the woeful figures under this government.
Well, they've gotten much worse.
They have. But the fact is, you have a record of failure, which is why nobody's listening to the Tories.
We know from bitter experience just how difficult it is to change the system. But we have been spending our time in opposition incredibly wisely, making sure that we have absolute cast iron changes that would work. And that's why we're the only party that has been able to publish legislation showing how we would make the changes. We're the only party who has commissioned a top barrister to explain exactly how we can unpick the human rights legislation that has been preventing governments, including this government, from doing what is necessary in the Channel and with our wider immigration system. We're the only party that is coming up with concrete policies rather than just headline grabbers. We know just how difficult it is to get things done in Whitehall, and we are not going to be pushed around again.
The reform is quite clear. They will take Britain out of the European Court of Human Rights. Kemi Badenoch is thinking about it. How long is it going to take her to come to a conclusion?
So we will, in the next few months, we will have a very lengthy report from one of the top KCs, one of the top barristers in the country, Lord Wolfson, very, very respected Conservative lawyer, explaining what laws we have to pass and what legal changes we have to make in order to be able to secure our borders, protect our veterans, make sure that we can prioritise local people for local services, and so on and so on and so on. No obstacle, no legal obstacle is going to hold us back. And we will be able to make a guarantee to the British people that we can do it because we are doing the homework. We're not just coming up with headlines.
What if people on the, shall we call it, liberal wing of the Conservative Party say we cannot come out of the ECHR if that is the conclusion you're going to do that? Are you willing to have Tory MPs resign from the party if that's the right thing to do?
Kemi has been very clear. We absolutely have to deliver on what the British people want to have delivered. And we will not let anything stand in our way to make sure that that happens.
Have you noticed the latest polls, or are they too horrific to talk about?
Well, it depends which poll you're talking about.
Well, let's do the one in the eye last week, which gives Reform a 15-point lead over Labour and an 18-point lead over the Tories.
And you'll see. I think talking about polls 4 years out from a general election is a bit of a distraction.
If you were doing well, you'd be talking about them all the time.
No. It's a bit of a distraction from talking about the issues that people really care about. When I knock on people's doors in my constituency, no one's talking about the polls. They're talking about illegal immigration. They're talking about what's going on in Epping. They're not talking about the polls. But if you want to talk about the polls, I'll talk about the polls very briefly. Firstly, yes, look, Reform are ahead in the polls. But there was a poll, I think, a couple of weeks ago over the summer, which showed that the Conservative Party might have overtaken the Labour Party. But the fact is, these aren't. This is not an indication of how people are going to vote at the next election. There isn't an election for the next 4 years. Everything is to play for, and what all political parties need to do is show the British people exactly how they will solve these problems, rather than just promising things they can't deliver on. And that's what the Conservative Party is doing right now.
In the last month, Reform, which has 4 MPs and doesn't have the resources that the Conservative Party has totally dominated the political agenda. Every week, another press conference, Farage, Foursquare, last week dominating it again. Now, you can argue whether the detail is right or wrong. Where was the Conservative Party? Are you in hibernation?
Andrew, I've noticed that you haven't mentioned the major announcement that Kemi's made this morning.
Remind me.
OK, so, well, I'm sure you read the papers, Andrew, because you're a very smart guy, and it's running at the top of the BBC Bulletin, which is that Kemi has said that we will take every last drop of oil and gas out of the North Sea in order, and that is a major announcement, which is great for jobs in Scotland. Kemi's going to be up in Aberdeen, I think, saying a few words about this.
Is this the end of the Tory support for net zero?
Yes, I mean, Kemi gave a speech, as you remember, I think in March, saying net zero by 2050 is unachievable. There is no point in destroying British business and British jobs, chasing after something that won't happen, particularly when the US and China are not following net zero at all. We're not going to do what Labour's doing, which is sacrificing British business and British jobs on the altar of this unachievable goal. It doesn't make any sense. So, we will allow drilling in the North Sea rather than importing oil and gas from other countries as a sort of crazy loophole to get around the assessment of hydrocarbons. So I think that this is a party which is coming forward with major policies, which are a big change from what we've seen before, and you will see a lot more of that, Andrew, in the months to come. On
net zero, what about fracking? There was a lot of support for that.
It's a very interesting subject.
And is that something that you'd consider? So, America is now it's self-sufficient in energy. I appreciate they've got a lot more space. It's a very large country.
Yeah. And America has obviously gotten a lot of fracking gas out over the past 20 years and has done very well from it. And I think the thing that you have to balance here in a more densely populated country is what local communities feel like, and that I think a lot of people might like fracking if it's not on their doorstep. But if it's in their back garden, they might have a different view of it. But look, we're not saying no to anything. We're looking at everything, but always mindful about what local people want.
10 seconds. Angela Rayner, should there be an inquiry into her tax affairs?
Look, she's definitely got questions to answer, but I'll tell you what's really going on here, Andrew. This is Labour Party politicians leaking against Angela because they can see that Keir Starmer's leadership is wobbling. That this is the start of very serious political infighting within the Labour Party, and I'm afraid you're going to see a lot more of that in the months to come.
And who'd have thought that just 1 year after their landslide election victories? Alex Burghart, Shadow Chancellor Joshua Lancaster, thanks so much for joining us. Now, coming up, the Deputy Leader of Reform UK and MP for Boston and Skegness, Richard Tice, is going to join me in the studio. Of course, it's the Reform Conference, which starts on Friday. And we'll ask him also, should Nigel Farage have a seat at the state banquet? Because Davey has had, in my view, a bit of a hissy fit and isn't going. This is the Camilla Tominey Show with me, Andrew Pearce, only on GB News.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk
No,
now?
that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Miriam, you can't be serious. Scrapping the triple lock on state pensions? Madness.
Andrew, we just can't carry on pretending. The numbers just don't add up. We've got to be honest with people. We've got to face the facts. That's what people want.
Well, that's what you get on GB News and on Britain's Newsroom. Lively debates, lively conversation.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first, and we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christies tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christies tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it?
no,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the Camilla Tominey Show with me, Andrew Pierce. I'm delighted to say in the studio with me is Richard Tice, who is the Deputy Leader of Reform UK and Member of Parliament for Boston Skegness. Richard, you've got an announcement. Something big's happening. What are you talking about?
Well, tomorrow I've got a press conference.
Yeah.
We'll be talking about Doge-related stuff for our councils. 11 o'clock, you will not want to miss that. We are finding substantial savings. We'll be talking about that tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock, ahead of our conference later this week.
Now, that's a big one on Friday. Will your leader be back from the United States? Because he's got a big appointment in America. He's going before a congressional committee in Washington to talk about, is freedom of speech under threat in Britain? Why did he come to America to talk about it?
Because it's such a massive issue. All of us are concerned about freedom of speech, freedom of expression. I visited Lucy Connolly in prison. Mercifully, she is now...
was jailed for...
She was jailed for an offensive tweet. It was vile, but she regretted it. I took it down immediately. By the way, that Keir Starmer, over 10 years ago, said when he was DPP, someone in that situation shouldn't be prosecuted or jailed. Yet another two-tier Keir. But Nigel's going to Washington to testify to this hearing about the state of free speech in the United Kingdom. I'm quite sure that if he gets the chance, he'll bring up the issue of Lucy Connolly as one example. And there's then all the issues around the Online Safety Act, which came into sort of full force just recently, and which was a well-intentioned mess, because it's not going to do what it set out to do. Primarily because people can so easily go on to the dark web through virtual private networks.
The Labour Party accuse you of meddling and risking young people's mental health, in a sense, because they're saying it will enable them to continue to, if you scrap this bill.
The best way to deal with mental health actually is to get busy, get working, and stop sort of labelling people with all these things and saying, oh dear, you can't go to work. Actually get busy, stop navel-gazing. That's what we've got to do. We've got to show people you need a bit of resilience. Sometimes you have a bad day. Tough, bluntly, that's life. And I think it's really important that we lead the way on that.
Now, we saw, it was reported at the weekend, that a number of other councils plan to follow the example of Epping Forest and challenge the government, the Home Office, over migrant hotels.
Yes.
Are they right to do that, bearing in mind Epping
They are indeed.
has
Every
lost
situation,
the
well,
second
every
stage?
situation is slightly different, but I can exclusively reveal to you, Andrew, this morning that one of our councils will be submitting injunctions by tomorrow evening.
Right.
That's the information that I've got. They've carried out
a
a full
reform-led
review.
council.
A reform-led council will be submitting injunctions, we believe, by tomorrow evening.
Can you tell us which one?
Not at this stage, but it's fast-moving. There's a lot of legal work being done, and every situation is slightly different, so in some cases it may not work, but look, we're doing everything we can. That's what people voted us to do, whether it's find the savings, look after their interests, defend and protect our women and girls. That's what reform will do.
OK, so they get kicked out of the hotel. Where do they go? Are they then going to go in council properties?
Well,
Are they then going to be
what the government should do
integrated in the
is
local
listen
community?
and learn from reform's policy. We need to detain these people in disused facilities, remote facilities, nowhere near any residents.
But you won't tell us where you're going to put them.
They will be remote. That's what we will clearly say. And because we're not going to go through a whole list of places and tick them off. Otherwise, you end up with nowhere left in the United Kingdom. But they will be remote, away from residents. That's the key thing. That's how you keep people safe. And this is really important. And we're all worried about safety, whether it's outside hotels. Look at this. This is a new summer toy I've got, Andrew. This is a device to stop someone stealing my phone when you're walking down the streets, because phone theft is so huge.
Well, are you linking that directly to migrants?
I'm not, actually. I'm just linking it directly to the breakdown in law and order in this country. Britain is lawless. We've been running a campaign through the summer highlighting this, and regrettably, there have been serious incidents allegedly carried out by people who are illegally claiming asylum, some of them living in these hotels. Of course, not everybody, no one's saying that, but you have to keep our residents, our women and girls safe, and they're not at the moment in some areas.
What about the idea from some that you, in Reform, are deliberately fomenting the unrest outside these hotels?
Absolute twaddle. We've always said that any protest should be lawful and peaceful. We all recognise and want that. But actually, isn't it interesting that the first judge at Epping, he recognised the power of lawful, peaceful protest, and he recognised that actually it was a genuine expression, legitimate expression by mums and dads about the safety of their children. And I think that's what democracy is all about, where if you're not happy with something, then you can speak up about it. That's what free speech is all about.
The judge, when they chucked out the Epping Forest case, made the point that if these migrants are moved out, this will provoke civil unrest. So better to keep them safe in the.
Well, how's that working out so far, Mr. Bean? I mean, talk about Bean by name and Bean by nature. I mean, seriously, we know that there are protests going on all up and down the country. There was a significant protest in Skegness, at the Skegness Hotel.
This is your own work.
In my own constituency yesterday, and these are going up and down the country. So the proof is in the pudding. At the moment, people have had enough, and that's why we're leading in the polls by 15% in the poll out in the last couple of days, ahead of Labour, because people recognise that people shouldn't be here legally. They need to be detained, they need to be deported, and they should be held in remote places until that happens, and you've got to rapidly process people and reject their false, fake applications. And what we've seen with Labour is the number of crossings is up 50% this year. Hotel use is up as opposed to down. They're now using the law to say that the rights of migrants and asylum seekers, that outweighs and trumps the rights of British citizens. And their backlog of applications has gone up. So at every metric, they've failed.
The Archbishop of York, who is currently the most senior cleric in the Church of England, in the Anglican faith, has given an interview today, and he's pushed way back on Nigel Farage. He's singled him out and named him, said the solution being offered by reform does not help. It doesn't solve the problem of why these people are coming here in the first place. What do you say to the Archbishop of York? Is he not speaking for a quiet majority?
Well, regrettably, he's speaking for a declining congregation. I suggest the Archbishop focuses on the problems within the Church of England and fill the vacancy and stop worrying about things that are way beyond his remit, i.e. international immigration policies. That's the role of elected politicians, not archbishops.
Bishops are in the House of Lords. They are politicians in all but name.
They're not elected. Legislation is created and voted on first by the House of Commons.
But he's reflecting a view that that reform, by talking constantly about the small boats, by talking constantly about what's going on in these hotels, that there are some people who are very uneasy about it.
Yeah, and they're generally the sort of metropolitan literati who are living nowhere near where these hotels are. They've no idea of the concerns, the anxieties, the jeering, the leering, what goes on up and down outside primary schools and secondary schools in some of these areas. And we're just telling it as it is. And I know that makes some people uncomfortable or tough. Maybe that's what people want us to do. Maybe that's the reason we're leading in every single national poll.
Are you saying that the presence of migrants in these hotels around the country, 32,000, is provoking civil unrest?
Well, we don't want civil unrest.
But are you saying it is happening?
Well, what you're seeing is lawful, peaceful protest. The vast, vast majority of what we're seeing has been lawful and peaceful. In fact, the only time there seems to be any trouble is when the vile folk from the sort of Antifa and the socialist worker folk rock up. Who on earth paying them? I don't know. But it's funny, isn't it, why that's when it turns a little bit nasty, when they rock up. Otherwise, mums in pink T-shirts, peacefully protesting, singing, dancing outside something like the Epping Hotel. That's what democracy's all about.
Just got a couple of minutes. Quickly tell me, your party conference in Birmingham, Friday, 24 hours?
Well, no, it's actually up to 48 hours.
Right.
So it starts on Friday morning, finishes Saturday late afternoon. It's going to be absolutely huge.
Any big
fringe
surprises
events
coming out? Any big defections?
Well, let's wait and see, Andrew. I couldn't exclusively reveal it even to you, but it will be huge. And also we've got the business community is getting very engaged with the reform.
Tell me about who's sponsoring the conference. Is it
Well,
something to do with Heathrow Airport?
we've got a variety of sponsors, but Heathrow Airport are sponsoring one particular area. Obviously, they're looking to invest huge sums of private money in a third runway. I mean, it is extraordinary. Part of the problem in this country, they've just revealed today, they've spent over £800 million so far in recent years on planning costs alone. A bit like the madness of the
third runway.
For the third runway. A bit like the Lower Thames crossing. They've spent over £1 billion on planning costs. They haven't put a spade or a shovel in the ground. This country, we have to stop all of this ludicrous nonsense. It's what I call the battery, where bat tunnels are more important than actually getting infrastructure built.
Should Nigel Farage be at the state banquet, as Sir Ed Davey, the Lib Dem leader, is declining to take his place?
Well, of course, Nigel should be there on his own account, not as Ed Davies' sort of replacement.
You're only four of you. Ed Davies got 72
We're 35% in the polls. We are winning most of the by-elections going on week in, week out. We were the clear winner in the May elections. We've got over 800 councillors. The last time you teased me trying to say we only had a few, well, I think I've proven you wrong, Andrew.
Well, you've got a lot more than the last time. You've got a lot more than last time.
And heading north.
And what will your role be at the conference?
I'll be speaking, I'll be at a number of fringe events and looking forward to meeting members. It'll be a great, great event.
And you can be certain that we will be there at GBNews. That is Richard Tice. He is the Deputy to Reform UK with his, what are you calling that?
I'm calling it a safety device, a phone safety device.
Yeah, just go careful, go careful. He's the Member of Parliament, of course, of Boston Skegness. Now, coming up, the Education Bridget Phillipsson is coming in to discuss school attendance and appalling pupil behaviour, which is having an impact on how much teaching kids are genuinely getting. I'm also asking why white working-class kids are still being left behind. This is the Camilla Tominey Show. That's not her, it's me. I'm Andrew Pearce, only on GB News.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. Low pressure still dominates the weather at the moment. We had the rain through Saturday, and then today it's a mixture of sunny spells and heavy showers. But it is a bright start this morning. Lots of dry weather around. Those showers quickly get going and then becoming quite widespread as we move through the latter part of the morning into this afternoon. And it will be a blustery day. We'll see winds coming in from the southwest, gusts of 30, 35 miles an hour, perhaps locally 40 to 50 around some western coasts and 60 miles an hour for western Scotland. Temperatures around average for the time of year, high teens to low 20s. So in the sunshine, not feeling too bad, but given the strength of the wind, the heaviness of the showers pushing through, it will be rather cool at times. Some of the showers could be heavy with some hail and thunder. You can see the bright colours on the map there as we move through the evening time, indicating some hefty downpours, perhaps some longer spells of rain for Northern Ireland into southwest Scotland for the evening time, and those blustery winds driving those showers through quite quickly. Overall, a fairly dry day for Orkney and Shetland with sunny spells. Into the evening time, we see further heavy showers across western parts of the UK as the low pressure slowly edges closer. Some clearer spells developing during the early hours across eastern parts of the Midlands, East Anglia, but generally showers continue through the night for many of us, perhaps some longer spells of rain and also still some rumbles of thunder possible and the wind staying rather brisk. Temperatures overall will be around 14 or 15 Celsius for many, so not a cold night to come. And then for Monday, low pressure still in charge, a mixture of sunny spells and showers. Some of the showers will be heavy at times. Monday is the first day of meteorological autumn and everyone will feel that. It'll be rather cool and breezy. Some showers will be heavy with hail and thunder and temperatures around average, generally around 19 to 21 Celsius as we get into the afternoon. See you soon.
Miriam, you can't be serious. Scrapping the triple lock on state pensions? Madness.
Andrew, we just can't carry on pretending. The numbers just don't add up. We've got to be honest with people. We've got to face the facts. That's what people want.
Well, that's what you get on GB News and on Britain's Newsroom. Lively debates, lively conversation.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first, and we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
Welcome back to the Camilla Tominey Show with me, Andrew Pierce. Now, we're waiting for the Education Secretary, Bridget Phillipsson, but joining me in the studio again is the broadcaster and journalist Claire Muldoon. Claire, 28 years today,
Yes.
Princess Diana died. I can still vividly remember I was getting up to go and do some broadcasting. I was working on the Times then at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock, had the radio on. Couldn't believe what I was hearing. And I actually thought, oh dear, this is terrible for the BBC. Some form of rehearsal for the death of a senior royal has gone out on air in error. And then I heard the immortal words, if you're just tuning in, the Princess Diana, Princess of Wales, and I knew then this was going to be a week that was going to potentially imperil the royal family. And by God, they had a bad week.
But what they did was actually it united the country.
Did.
You remember?
I do.
I was in London at the time, actually.
Yeah.
My parents were down visiting and we were staying not far in St James.
Yeah.
And we got the news through and gosh, we couldn't believe it.
No.
And Cardinal Basil Hume at the time was the head of the Catholic Church in England and Wales. And he said, you know, obviously it's incredibly sad, but he said it's actually opened the door now for the King, which it did to marry Camilla.
Yeah.
And I remember getting off the tube to go visit Kensington Palace. And I think that was the first time, Andrew, I think we've seen any monument or any testament to any public figure like we did in the terms of leaving the flowers there and all the messages to both the princes, Harry and William. And then Tony Blair said he intervened and got the Queen from Balmoral.
Yeah, but he also, the great communicator, the People's Princess, was just a great phrase.
I mean, it really was. And, you know, through all of that, through her death and the majesty of her funeral, which was absolutely, it was magnificent. And again, it shows us as a country at her best.
Yeah, and we heard all sorts of stories about the princess that we didn't know about, some of the work she'd done behind the scenes.
Which were, there were loads.
Yeah.
Loads of charitable organisations, lots of hope. She brought lots of hope to people. She was a very magnanimous person in the way she treated people.
Extraordinary that she was only 36 when she died.
I can't believe
just
that.
a couple of months older than me, in fact. Yeah. It was just so staggering. You know what I think, if you think today, Claire, and by the way, that week was extraordinary. I was in the Times. I moved from Parliament, where I was based, into the Newsroom, which was such an amazement, with the rows over should they fly the flag at half-mast, and should she come back in a royal flight?
I know.
And should they... Then the royals wanted to give her back HRH, and the Spencer family said you should never have taken it off her, keep it. It was extraordinary.
It was extraordinary.
But I wonder now, if Diana was alive, I think Prince William and Prince Harry would still be speaking to each other.
They really,
She'd have knocked their heads together.
Absolutely.
Like a loving mum.
Absolutely. And that's what was lacking in those boys' lives, the love of their mum and the ability of their mum to be able to go to their mum at any time. And it's so important, absolutely so important.
And we hope still, I mean, Harry's coming here very soon.
He is.
And maybe
him and Trump should go together.
You're challenging. Now, that's Claire, we're doing. I think our VIP guest is arriving any second now, Secretary of State for Education. Just finally, were you a great fan of Diana's?
I loved Diana, and she filled the pages of both Hello and OK. And it was at the time of print journalism. It was great. And those pictures, they sold a story. They sold her soul and her love.
Delighted to say in the studio, Bridget Phillipsson, Secretary of State for Education, joins me. Secretary of State, good morning. Can I ask you, because it is the 28th anniversary, where you were when you heard that she died?
I do remember it incredibly well, because I remember my mum waking me up to come upstairs to say she'd seen the news on the television. I was a teenager at the time then, and it was a remarkable... I mean, she was such a wonderful person. It was such a remarkable moment, and it's something that has always stayed with me.
Now, did you have a good summer?
I did, thank you. Did you?
I did. Now, I'm glad you had a good summer, because your government hasn't had a good summer, has it? Let's be honest. In July, end of July, poll ratings 23%. One poll now down to 20, another poll giving Reform a 15-point lead. What's gone wrong?
Look, being in government's hard. You've got to make choices, and some of them are tough, sometimes not always popular in the here and now, but it's about doing what's right by the country in the long run. And we have made different choices as a government. The things that I'm talking about this morning around focusing on school attendance and behaviour, for example, and areas where...
I will come to that, but let me just ask you, in the last few weeks, Minister, we've seen 1 million more people on universal credit, no requirement to work. The number of people on benefit, 6.5 million, up 500,000 on Labour's watch. I thought you were all about growth. There's none.
We are. I mean, you know, I'm impatient for change. I know that people want to see change. They voted for it last July. They want to see it in their communities. And I'm just as impatient as they are to make that happen. Now, I think everybody knows that there are lots of big challenges we face as a country, some of them pretty long-standing. That will take time. I know that's frustrating, but it will take time. However, I am confident that by the time of the next election, people will see even more being delivered in their communities. There's already progress, whether that's on bringing down NHS waiting lists, more police on our streets, more investment in our schools, expanding childcare that starts from tomorrow for parents. So big changes that have only come about because of a Labour government. Is there more to do? Absolutely there is.
Your colleague, Angela Rayner, you've got a colleague called Matthew Pennycook, a planning minister, said it's not a story. Well, with respect, Secretary of State, this story broke last Sunday. It's still a front-page story 8 days on. What do you say about it? She is said to have legally avoided £40,000 stamp duty in the way she designated the new property in Hove, which, by the way, is 270 miles from her constituency. It's apparently now her principal residence.
So her principal residence is in her constituency. Angela Rayner has also said that she's followed all of the rules and requirements of her. She said that in terms of all of the matters that have been discussed on the front page of newspapers. I would just add that she's, of course, as a free citizen in this country, entitled to spend her money as she chooses. If she chooses to buy a flat, that's absolutely her right. It's the right of anyone to spend their money on what they choose. But she said that everything she's done has been in line with the rules.
Of course. Now, let's just remind you, back in the summer last year, it was within the rules, but Sir Keir Starmer accepted £32,000 worth of freebies from a man called Lord Ali. you took money from Lord Ali. A number of your cabinet colleagues took money from Lord Ali, all within the rules, Secretary of State. But the perception was terrible, and I would argue that the government's political difficulties began in a big way and your popularity started to fall. Because it's perception, Minister.
No,
it may be legal,
understand.
but it's perception.
No, I understand that. And, you know, political parties of all persuasions over many, many years have taken donations from individuals who want to make a contribution to their party in many, many forms. But of course, you know, there were problems around what you've described, the way that the appearance that gave. And as a government, every day, what we're getting on with, what we're focused on, is how we deliver for working people in our country. We know that lots of people are still facing big pressures around the cost of living. We know that there are worries, for example, around the use of asylum hotels. That's been the topic of much discussion in recent weeks. We know that there is more to do to turn our country around. But I'm genuinely positive and optimistic about our country's future. Look, there are big challenges. Some of them go back many, many years. I'm not just going to blame the Conservatives, but that's where we are. But I am positive that our country's best days lie ahead of us. I think we're a brilliant country.
Okay.
There is so much we can do to harness the entrepreneurialism, the brilliance of our people, if we work together, if government gets behind it.
But, Minister, on this perception business, Jeremy Hunt criticised, he was Chancellor of the Exchequer because it emerged he bought some properties and he was accused by a very senior Labour politician of exploiting Tory tax loopholes to save stamp duty. Who was that minister, shadow minister? Angela Rayner.
Okay.
Has she not done exactly the same, exploited loopholes and official guidance to save £40,000 in stamp duty? Would you have done it?
Well, I split my time between my constituency and London, like all MPs, and the same is true
You'd be
of
conscious
Angela
of how
Rayner.
it would look if you appeared to manipulate the rules to save £40,000 in tax. And you're the Housing Secretary.
Look, Angela Rayner has set out, as a matter of public record, that she believes she has done everything that is necessary, everything that's been asked of her, and in line with all of the rules in terms of all of the coverage that we've seen over the last few days.
Last question on this, because I think you were challenged on this. Rishanara Ali was the Homelessness Minister, and you said everything she's done is within the rules. She resigned a couple of days later because it emerged she had made tenants, she evicted some tenants, and then she dramatically increased the rent. It was within the rules, she said. She resigned a couple of days later. And you defended her at the time.
She made that decision. She made the decision to step back. But of course, every case is different. Every case has its own merits, and Angela Rayner has set out her position.
In classrooms, 7 minutes in every 30 is lost to bad behaviour. 45 days a year, children lose to bad behaviour. Hundreds, if not thousands, of teachers are leaving the profession every year because of bad behaviour. What are you doing about it?
Behaviour is a massive challenge alongside attendance. You're right that it causes disruption to the whole classroom. It stops children from learning. It's a big problem that teachers raise with me in every school I visit. It's why today we're announcing new attendance behaviour hubs with new attendance and behaviour ambassadors leading that work across schools in our country.
It's about parents, isn't it, a lot of it?
It's about all of us. So, you know, it's exciting that we have the start of a new school term. That's an exciting opportunity for parents, for children, but also the chance to have a strong start. So yes, it's about parents making sure their children are regularly in school and they're backing schools around behaviour policy too. It's about government and what more we should be doing to support schools, and that's obviously around investment, but other areas where we're delivering, for example, the attendance and behaviour hubs, but schools too. So some schools manage this better than others. There's difference between schools, and I want schools to learn from the best, to share good practice, to work together. We've made really strong progress on attendance over the last year. We've got almost 150,000 fewer children missing school on a regular basis than a year ago. That shows what we can achieve if we work together. But now, at the start of the school term, let's have a real push where all of us, including parents, pull together.
White working class children, particularly boys, are still being failed by the education system. I know you've only been in power 13 months. What are you doing about that?
I care very deeply about that. It's my background.
It's
the background of the community that I represent. And it is a national scandal that for so many years we haven't been talking about this topic, we haven't been taking it seriously, and we've been prepared to accept that kids from white working class backgrounds don't go on to get good GCSEs, good life chances, good outcomes. Later on this year, I'll be setting out a school's white paper on behalf of the government that will take further action to address this. But the first step is we've got to acknowledge the challenge we face. We can't be afraid of talking about this. We've got to confront it head on. and taking action to make sure that all communities, all families, all young people see that education is for them, because there is a big disconnection in many communities around the value of education, the value of going to school. And part of that is because it's not necessarily seen as the route to a good life and to a good job. We've got to turn that around.
No regrets over the schools that have closed down because you've whacked private schools with VAT?
Well, sadly, some of the schools that have closed down were schools that were experiencing financial trouble over many, many years. They're private businesses. It's up to them to manage their money like any other business. But we've actually got more private schools now than last year. So there's actually been an increase. There's always been a turnover of schools, some open, some close. We did make that decision to impose VAT on fees. That's because if we're talking about the life chances of children in our country, my first concern is the kids that we were just talking about who don't get the chance of a great education, how we pay for that and make state education brilliant.
All right, that is the Secretary of State for Education, Bridget Phillipsson. Thank you so much for coming to studio. Very good to talk to you. Still to come, we'll have more on Deputy Prime Minister Rayner. Will she still be Deputy Prime Minister in a year's time, Bridget Phillipsson?
I'm sure she will be. There
we are, you heard it from the Secretary of State, who's been accused of avoiding £40,000 in stamp duty when buying a second home. We're going to be talking to the broadcasting journalist Juda about that. This is the Camilla Tominey Show. I'm Andrew Pearce. This is GB News.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello, there's still the risk of heavy rain and thunderstorms across central western parts of the Mediterranean over the next few days. Elsewhere it should be largely dry and sunny, largely dry across Madeira, the Canary Islands, but you can see the risk of rain across parts of Spain, Portugal, into France, northern Italy, seeing some heavy downpours and thunderstorms. A few showers possible towards Greece as well, but Turkey largely dry with plenty of sunny spells. Temperatures still in the 30s here, and it remains similar over the next few days.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
OK, at 7:32, tributes are flooding in for the Apollo 13 commander, Jim Lovell, who has died aged 97.
97, wow. He guided the failed space mission back to Earth after that attempt to land on the moon was aborted following an oxygen tank explosion.
Tom Hanks, the movie star who played him, honoured the legendary astronaut in an emotional tribute, calling him a true visionary. I think they really got to know each other well during the making of that movie. That's 30 years after he played Lovell in the 1995 film Apollo 13.
And the Apollo 13 movie was very accurate because Lovell was working on the Apollo 13 movie to ensure there was accuracy. There was a few bits of movie license to make it a little bit more dramatic here and there, but it was a very accurate depiction, and it showed Lovell in the wonderful light of who he was.
And they gave him a little cameo at the end, didn't they? He actually played a part. He played the commander of the ship, the naval ship that picked up the astronauts.
Yeah, and I don't think a lot of people realise that. He was actually in the Apollo 13 movie. And Tom Hanks and Lovell spent a lot of time together so that Tom could act the role in as accurate a way as possible. He picked up a lot of his mannerisms to make sure it was accurate. But it must have been wonderful for Jim to actually be on the movie itself. We're just sort of scratching the surface of our spacefaring nature. We've been to the moon, although there's been a bit of a hiatus of going to the moon, but we've got the Artemis projects coming up in the next sort of 5-10 years, where we hope to get people back on the moon again. And, let's not forget, this is all relatively new technology.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akua, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the Camilla Tominey Show with me, Andrew Pearce. Joining me now is the journalist and broadcaster Juda Da Silva. Juda, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Angela Rayner, here we are, 8 days on. It's still a front-page story in the Telegraph, the Mail on Sunday. It's not going away. Do you think she's being given a fair press or not?
Absolutely not. I think that everyone's going gung-ho because she's a prized scalp if they're able to take her down, which I hope they are not, and I think they should not. When you look at the optics of it, I will be pragmatic and be honest and say that it looks bad. She's done nothing illegal. The perception the press are giving of her and calling her three pads Rayner, that isn't true. The fact is, you had a home, which was your matrimonial home with your children. You got divorced. Anyone who's a child of divorce, who's been through divorce, who's witnessed friends in divorce, you know the issues that happen around the matrimonial home and who gets it. That has apparently been resolved. That is, she no longer has a stake in that home. You have a new home. You're navigating the relationship post your divorce. You want to be closer to him. And you know that middle-aged women in the dating pool, the kinds of men available to you, they have divorces, they have children, they have their own life circumstances to navigate. You figure out a way through it. You want to be closer to them. The third abode that they say she has, it's a working residence. Anyone who does work that takes you beyond a travel distance to your primary residence, the employer, if they want you for the job, is obligated to provide transport and accommodation. That is her work residence. And you know nobody considers that to be their primary home. It's their work residence that belongs to the employer as long as you are in their employment. So this perception of her having multiple residences is just not true. So that's why I feel that people are capitalizing on an opportunity. But the reason they can is because of the mistake I do believe Angela Rayner is making, where she's not offering full disclosure. Because the personal truth of the narrative behind her public choices will neutralize the perception that she's being shady.
And the issue, Juda, is, has she manipulated, or perhaps you don't like that word, has she used the rules legitimately to limit how much stamp duty she pays on that property? Potentially saving herself £40,000. Now, she is on record again and again in opposition, attacking tax avoidance. Tax avoidance is legal. I'm not saying it's illegal. Tax evasion is the illegal one. But she attacked the Tories again and again for encouraging tax avoidance. If she's engaged in tax avoidance, and we know from another newspaper today, she employed a very, very sophisticated financial advisory company on the purchase to ensure that she pays less tax. That reeks, Juda, of hypocrisy.
See, that's the perception you would have if you look at Angela Rayner a certain way. At the level she operates in frontline government, anyone doing anything would hire the best advisors before doing it. That would be the wise thing to do. If she didn't, I would call her incompetent. And based on what they advised her is what they would advise any client. The fact is, for her former primary residence, it's no longer her primary residence. This new one is. And she paid $30,000 as opposed to $70,000, which is what she was supposed to pay. The whole idea of tax avoidance is something shady that she hasn't done. The technicality of her personal circumstances afforded her the possibility to capitalize on this actual legal movement. It's not a shady tactic. It's her just understanding that based on my life circumstances, what can I do? And her advisors, who are the best advisors for the deputy prime minister, gave her the right advice and she followed it. The reason why I do agree with you that it looks bad is because she's not being honest by coming out. All I would say is this. In the landscape we live in politically today, everyone has to change. It's 2025. We are the social media generation. The way Nigel Farage took chapter and verse out of Trump's playbook, where he became the social media politician and has been very successful doing so. Look at what someone like Gavin Newsom is doing in America. He's realized that taking the high road when people go low in Trump's America doesn't work. Come out with fire fighting fire. Angela Rayner, do the same thing. Come out and tell the truth of your narrative, because your power base lies with women, working class, single mother, a divorcee, in a new relationship, high-powered job, you've gone from nothing to something. Every woman can see a piece of themselves in you if you would speak directly to them. And think of what Thatcher did, the way she redefined what it is to be a powerful woman without the cookie cutter mold of being demure and very dainty, but being a battle axe and being formidable. She changed the way you see women. You have the opportunity for a zeitgeist moment where the working class woman who is being attacked from all corners, even by women in the column inches who don't know your struggle, you can fight that if you come out guns blazing. When people accuse you of things, lean into it and show the truth behind it, which justifies every choice you make. But if you play the old adage of my private life is private, my public persona is public, you will fall into these pitfalls repeatedly.
All right, that's Juda de Silva defending Angela Rayner, but suggesting that perhaps a bit of transparency would help. A couple of emails on this saying, lots of emails coming in, saying Angela Rayner just has to be honest and tell the truth. And a lot of people saying why they're not surprised. There's a story in one of the papers today about most people don't want to fight for Britain. Jeffrey says, why would anyone fight for a country where you're not allowed to fly the flag and having pride in your country is frowned upon and the rights of illegal migrants in hostels takes precedence? Well, now, thank you, Judita. Up next on GB News, it's Sunday with Michael Portillo. Michael, what is coming up on your show this morning? Good morning to you.
Good morning, Andrew. Well, following on from that discussion you had, we're going to be asking, is there anything wrong with champagne socialism? We're going to be looking at what's gone wrong with Bournemouth, where they've got private security now patrolling the beaches. We're looking into art that was looted by the Nazis. And, Andrew, arrangements have been made to let me eat cake.
Oh, as in the French ambassador, as in the Marie Antoinette. Marie Antoinette. Can I just say on Bournemouth, Michael, I went there just before the general election. I went to support Conor Burns, who was a Tory MP in the town, lost his seat. They both lost their seat. I couldn't believe what had gone on in the city centre. I used to go to Bournemouth as a child on holiday. We thought it was really posh and upmarket. It's terrible, and drug people taking drugs openly in the city centre. It's become the Wild West.
There have been two stunning articles on it, one in the Telegraph, one in the Spectator, that I have read. People obviously feeling very wary about crime. There's brawling apparently occurring on the beaches. People are worried about 3 migrant hotels in the town, and very poor standards of public behaviour. People using the beach for a purpose they should not, if you understand what I'm saying.
I do.
So, yeah, Bournemouth's reputation seems to be on the line, and we're going to be talking about why that has happened, and in particular, whether it tells us something about what's going on in Britain. Is there a tipping point that's occurring, which is on display in Bournemouth?
Yeah, and as I say, the decline is very marked. And, Michael, I do need to know what flavour cake?
Well, I don't know. This is going to be a surprise for me. Quite often, Andrew, the last item on my show is called The Taste of Britain, and some very kind person turns up, on this occasion with cake, on other occasions it could be alcohol, and it seems a good way of marking the fact that we're ending summer now and we're going into the cosier autumn season when people will be sitting around fires eating cake.
All right, Michael, we'll all look forward to it. That's Michael Portillo. Thank you to all my guests today. It's been a pleasure for me to do the Camilla Tominey Show for the first time. Thanks to you at home for watching and listening. The show will be back at the same time next week with more straight-talking interviews and punchy political debate. Don't forget, I'll be back on Britain's Newsroom with Miriam Cates tomorrow morning, Monday at 9:30 on GB News. Up next on GB News, Michael Portillo. But first time for some, what I suspect is some rather sodden weather.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. Low pressure still dominates the weather at the moment. We had the rain through Saturday, and then today it's a mixture of sunny spells and heavy showers. But it is a bright start this morning. Lots of dry weather around. Those showers quickly get going and then becoming quite widespread as we move through the latter part of the morning into this afternoon, and it will be a blustery day. We'll see winds coming in from the southwest, gusts of 30-35 miles an hour, perhaps locally 40 to 50